onset of NIL and the transfer portal, it is allowing players to develop further in college, and guys that would maybe be stuck on the bench at a power program and not have as much shine are having the ability to find themselves in the spotlight.
Lane Kiffin came out and said we need to get bigger and more physical in terms of the offensive defensive lines, and that's why he went out and recruited that talent.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
And now you have to qualify, and these majors, you got to go do it, man. Like, and it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness, and I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships. Mm-hmm. So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell, coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
SportsRage late
sort of
night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Let's roll. This is SportsRage. I am Gabriel Morency, the pimps, the players, the hustlers, the people to bust them, and everybody else in between. We're kicking it Monday Night Meltdown style. Our boy Mo Khan's going to step up and in a couple of minutes. Wild night tonight as far as the action is concerned. We sort of ended up on the wrong side of some of it, specifically the Edmonton Oilers and the Dallas Stars. The Oilers are a difficult team to trust. You know, you take them, you hope for the best. Nothing's ever easy for the Edmonton Oilers. I did believe that they were going to go to Edmonton and go back to Dallas tied at 2 after they played 2 games in Edmonton. I should have known, though, that the Oilers would lose that first game back home. Dude, we've seen it time and time again. Like, just if you're blindly betting the road team in the Stanley Cup playoffs, hell, the NBA playoffs, road teams have been dominant as well. But home ice really does not mean anything in the National Hockey League this year, as we see. And some of these teams, it's worse. Like, it's not an advantage. It's a clear disadvantage. And it seems like a lot of teams just play better on the road, including the Dallas Stars. And that's a problem if you're the Edmonton Oilers. It's a problem if the team that has home ice is actually good on the road as well. That's a bad combo. And the Rangers are suddenly winning on the road because the Panthers can't win at home either. So we'll get you the updated numbers. Game 4 is on Wednesday night. The Dallas Stars are plus 105. The Edmonton Oilers are minus 125. The total is 5.5. So in other words, it's exactly what it was tonight at puck drop. The Rangers and Panthers tomorrow night. The Panthers, significant favorites in this game, as people are legitimately, believing that, this is the bounce back spot for the Panthers. The Panthers, minus 180 favorites in this hockey game right now. The New York Rangers are plus 150. The total is 5.5. Both games went under at MSG. Was it because of the bad ice? Did the ice slow down the players that much? I think it probably had something to do with it, as Paul Maurice believes that it did. I don't know, if it's going to be such a track meet tomorrow, but every one of these games, like in playoff series and in the Stanley Cup, there's always going to be a game that just opens up and gets away from both teams. It happened yesterday at Sunrise in Florida. Happened tonight, ended up with 8 goals here. They're kind of anomalies, though, when you get this late in the year. Teams will generally bounce back after. That's why you got 5.5s up on the board. Meanwhile, in the National Basketball Association, we got a game tomorrow night. Surprising, like I said in the past, props to the NBA for actually making the teams play every 48 hours, something that we're not used to seeing in the association. But they've done a nice job of having games on a daily basis, despite these series is going so quickly. So the Celtics have advanced to the NBA Finals, and the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Dallas Mavericks tip off tomorrow night at 8:30 Eastern time. The Dallas Mavericks are 2-point favorites. You could argue that this price is too short. I do believe that Minnesota have pride. I do believe that Minnesota don't want to get swept, right? It's not an instance where you're getting swept and, you have to go back to the other team's building. It's like, no, we win this game. We have to go back home anyways. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that there aren't teams sometimes that are down 3-0 and they're getting murdered in the series, and they're playing at home, and they're like, man, we just want the season to end. I don't want to go back to this building and get blown out. It's going to take another 3 days of our lives. Let's roll. This is SportsRage. I am Gabriel Morency. The pimps, the players, the hustlers, the people that bust them, and everybody else in between, including Boston Celtic fans, as the Celtics are going to the NBA Finals. They handle their business against the Pacers. No excuses. Halliburton out. So what? The Boston Celtics get called out a lot, and I've done it. And I was thinking about it, and I'm like, you know what? You can't hold it against a team, number one, for being the 1 seed and earning the opponents that they get. Number two, you can't hold it against a team because players on other teams get hurt. Number three, the Boston Celtics, Kristaps Porzingis is a big part of what they do. People can dismiss it. Oh, yeah, they still have Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Yeah, okay. So number four, we're not going to punish a team and hold it against them because they're actually deep. That's the part of building a successful team. So when one player or two players go down, your season doesn't collapse. And I think the Boston Celtics actually deserve credit. Now, have they gotten some lucky breaks along the way? Yeah. But let's be real. They were going to win the playoff series that they were going to win anyways. If Jimmy Butler played for the Miami Heat, they might have covered some point spreads. They might have won a game more, or two. But were they going to beat the Boston Celtics? Probably not. Didn't matter about the Cleveland Cavalier injuries. The Cavaliers didn't even think they were going to win, and they fired their coach, okay? So the Celtics would have won those series anyways, and even if Halliburton would have played, they would have won this series. They just swept them, all right? So I think it's time that we all, at least it's time for me, to acknowledge that the Boston Celtics do not deserve any hate for winning in the fashion that they did in the Eastern Conference. Now, it doesn't mean that I'm all in that they're going to win the NBA championship, but as far as the updated numbers right now are concerned, the Boston Celtics are minus 240 favorites to win the NBA championship. The Dallas Mavericks are plus 200. Minnesota Timberwolves right now are checking in the 40-1 range. So inevitably, it's going to be the Dallas Mavericks and the Boston Celtics. If you like the Dallas Mavericks in this series against the Boston Celtics, then just take the Mavericks now. You're not going to get any better price because they're still playing in this series. And I do think that they're going to finish off the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Mavericks have shown a killer instinct, right? The Celtics, let's give credit to the Celtics as well. In the past, they haven't had a killer instinct. They wouldn't sweep teams. So I think the Mavericks do have a killer instinct. And also, I think the Mavericks will be motivated by the fact that the Boston Celtics are waiting for them right now. Right? All right, they've punched their ticket. Now it's time to punch our ticket. And you think Kyrie Irving going back to Boston is going to be a storyline when this thing plays out? But if you're the Dallas Mavericks, don't let this thing play out. Number one, why? Injuries. Right? Teams that are down 3-0 in the NBA playoffs are now 0-155. It was 154-0 coming into tonight. So the T-Wolves aren't coming back. And Anthony Edwards says, I still don't think they're going to beat us. Okay, well, they're going to. But nevertheless, my point being, we saw Derek Lively last night take a knee to the back of the head. Only bad things can happen the more games that you play against the T-Wolves right now. You know you're going to the finals. The Celtics are already in the finals. Now it's up to you to go out there and finish this off. Don't risk any injury to Luka, Kyrie, Lively, Washington, the role players, the star players. Finish off the Minnesota Timberwolves. And we're going to have ourselves a great NBA Finals, man. Dallas versus Boston will be a lot of fun. NHL hockey, Florida Panthers are big-time favorites tomorrow night against the New York Rangers. The Rangers are up 2-1. People are buying back into the bounce-back zigzag theory in this one. Panthers are minus 180 favorites right now over the visiting New York Rangers, although there's more New York Ranger fans in the building than there are Panther fans. Dallas Stars victorious tonight. The Edmonton Oilers were up 2-0 after the first period of play. They absolutely crumbled early in the second period. They gave up 3 goals. They ended up losing the game 5-3. Now the Oilers find themselves down 2-1 in the history of the Stanley Cup playoffs. 7-game series in the National Hockey League. Teams that win Game 3 of series that are tied at 1 go on to win the series 66% of the time. A lot of stuff to get to, including the unfortunate passing of the legend Bill Walton. Bill Walton passes away, 71 years old. We'll talk about that and more with Mo Khan. Level 3 has begun. This is Sports Rage.
With the onset of NIL and the transfer portal, it is allowing players to develop further in college, and guys that would maybe be stuck on the bench at a power program and not have as much shine are having the ability to find themselves in the spotlight.
Lane Kiffin came out and said we need to get bigger and more physical in terms of the offensive defensive lines, and that's why he went out and recruited that talent.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
And now you have to qualify, and these majors, you got to go do it, man. Like, and it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness, and I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships. So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live. Prime time.
We got not 1, but 2 coaches fired systems in place.
SportsRage late
This sort
night.
of has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is Sports Rage. I am Morency. Let's do this thing. Mo Khan will step up in a moment. So we know that the Boston Celtics victorious. They're going to the NBA Finals. Credit to the Pacers. The Pacers coulda, shoulda, woulda. Even without Halliburton, the Pacers could have won these last 2 games. Just couldn't get it done in the game's final moments. Pascal Siakam, we see he's a very consistent player, Siakam. He'll put up numbers. But in clutch moments and game's final moments, you saw he didn't score, right? He turned the ball over. He didn't score. He's got to learn to get a killer instinct in the final moments of games, yet he's been in the league for a while, so he's more of just that sort of number 2 guy. And as I stated off the top, if you're just joining us, I've been sort of, as far as the Celtics, I respect them. I think they're really good. But at the same point in time, I think they have been fortunate, but it's not like they've been lucky. They earned their luck with the teams that they played. So, we saw that the Pacers just played with them and covered the point spread in 3 of the 4 games that they played against them. But we can't hold it against them that Jimmy Butler was hurt. They would have beaten Miami anyways. Donovan Mitchell missing a game or 2 didn't matter for the Cleveland Cavaliers, all right? The Celtics were going to win that series anyways, and even if Halliburton would have played, the Celtics would have won this series. Would have been a sweep? Maybe not. But if ends and buts were candies and nuts. Yet, Dallas and Boston, it'll be super fun. Dallas still have another game to go, though. Let's bring in Mo Khan right now, TSN, statistician, play-by-play voice, basketball play-by-play voice, former college football wide receiver, and more. Mo, good to see you. How you doing tonight, Mo?
Better, Gabe. I was battling vertigo the last couple of days, but like a trooper that I am, I figured, hey, you know what? It's midnight, East Coast. Let's do this big time with you, Gabe.
I appreciate you battling through. Man, that sounds like it sucks, vertigo. Is there medication for that, can you think?
No, there's natural therapy you can do, which they give me tips, and you got to lean your head over the whole 9 and get the crystals back in place. It's all right. Wow. I'm good. I can drop 40 right now if I have to. You and I were on a basketball.
If I'll tell you a story. This is a funny one. If I remember it correctly, it was our boy Steve Ludzik. So Steve Ludzik, I used to work with Steve Ludzik.
Yeah.
And at the same network. And Ludzik was played in the NHL for, 12, 13, 14 years. NHL vet. And he was the head coach in the NHL.
That's right.
Head coach of the Tampa Bay Lightning for years. And in the Vinny LeCavalier days, sort of like the earlier days. And I used to do hits with him, but, I was in an office in those days, like at a studio all the time. And he hung out, we hung out a lot together. And I used to get some great stories. And he's like, hey, Gabe, he goes, I know you like heavy metal. He goes, I think you'll find this funny. We're having a couple of drinks. And he tells me about how he's the coach of the Tampa Bay Lightning, and he knows he's going to get fired soon. He's like, we're kind of underachieving, and I've been there for a while. And he goes, and I'm not getting any goaltending. He goes, goaltending's a big problem. And he goes, so we call up this kid named Zach Burke. And he goes, so I come into the room the day that this Zach Burke kid arrives, and they're cranking heavy metal in the room, right? So Ludzik's like, what the F's going on? Why are you guys cranking this? Turn it down. And they're listening to Skid Row. And Zach Burke is Sebastian Burke, Sebastian Bach of Skid Row, the singer. His real name is Burke. It's his brother. Wow. So his brother was a goalie, all right? But so Ludzik's like, oh, God. And they showed him a picture of Sebastian Bach and stuff. He's like, who is he? And they said his brother's a big rock star. And he's like, really? And he's like, who's Sebastian Bach? So they show who Sebastian Bach is. He sees the hair and the heavy metal. He goes, oh, God. He goes, this is this guy's brother? Great. And it turned out he had vertigo, too. So that's why I'm telling you this story, Mo. So he goes, Gabe, I'm about to get fired. I get this goalie called up. Turns out he's some heavy metal star's effing brother. He goes, great kid, but he couldn't stop a puck because he had vertigo. And he goes, that's when I knew I was going to get fired, when they sent me a goalie with vertigo. And he started laughing. Yeah, funny story. I don't know if people realize, Sebastian Bach of Skid Row is a brother that played in the NHL, actually. There's a little behind-the-scenes story from Ludzik and vertigo. And I just remember Ludzik telling me, he goes, Gabe, can't be a goalie if you have vertigo, especially in the NHL. He was like, Ludzik was blown away. He's like, how the hell did this guy get this far if he's got vertigo? I don't understand this. Right. They had to explain to Ludzik, it's okay. He can see the puck. Don't worry. It's okay. Ludzik was a really funny guy. I tell you, he is a funny guy. But some of his, him. Yeah, some of his stories are untellable on the air. All right, so the Mavericks, just because they're motivated, and I've been doing this show for so long now. What are we in year 22, going to 23, whatever. So I get flashbacks of me saying the same thing over. And I've said this before, when a team wins and they've booked their ticket, and I'll say, like, well, the Mavericks are going to be motivated now that the Celtics have already punched their ticket. And I think they will be, but it doesn't automatically mean they're going to win the game. Yeah. But I do think that they're showing a killer instinct. And I do think if you're the Dallas Mavericks, you don't want to risk injury. Don't play around. Finish this off right now and move on to the NBA Finals.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. And if you were to win tomorrow night, you would get, I believe, 9 days off because the game was June 6th, which I believe is a Thursday of the finals. But, Gabe, you look at when Lively went down for the Mavs, the T-Wolves were like afraid to attack the rim with their bigs, right? With Gobert and Cat to try and take over the paint area. And every time the Mavs had their backs against the wall, they answered the call. The big shot, the corner three with about, I think it was like 2:10 left in the ball game. The defensive stops that they had, the rebounding was massive in the final 5 minutes of that ball game, where they were able to, limit the T-Wolves on any second or third chance opportunities. And they realized at the end of the day, it was only me, Anthony Edwards, that would beat them, no one else. And they shut him down. And now they're the 3-0 lead, and perhaps we'll sweep it tomorrow night in Dallas and punch the ticket to play the Celtics in 9 days' time.
It'll be much more challenging for Jason Kidd, though, to stop the Boston Celtics players than it is the Minnesota Timberwolves. The T-Wolves are sort of offensively challenged at times. Conley's hit or miss offensively. Cat has disappeared for them. More on the other side with Mo.
With the onset of NIL and the transfer portal, it is allowing players to develop further in college, and guys that would maybe be stuck on the bench at a power program and not have as much shine are having the ability to find themselves in the spotlight.
Lane Kiffin came out and said we need to get bigger and more physical in terms of the offense and defensive lines, and that's why he went out and recruited that talent.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
And now you have to qualify, and these majors, you got to go do it, man. Like, and it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness, and I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships. Mm-hmm. So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell, coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
SportsRage late
This sort
night.
of has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is SportsRage. I am Morency. We're kicking at our boy Mo Khan in the house with us. So from a betting perspective, the Mavericks are -2. You could argue at this point, now they keep on winning, that they should be bigger favorites. They're -130 on the money line. The total is 210. I do expect Minnesota to show up. Historically, though, these things don't end well. And Minnesota will throw some punches. I do believe Dallas finished them off tomorrow, Mo. What's your pick for tomorrow night's game?
Yeah, I agree. I think the series was done in game 2, right? When Gobert got stuck in no man's land playing Doncic on that game-winning shot. And I just think that we spoke about this last week, Gabe, when we were previewing the series. The T-Wolves can't score points. That's the difficulty, right? And we saw the difficulty that was evident on Sunday night where they couldn't find success in the final 3 minutes of that ball game. We're trying to get themselves back in, and they're chasing it. And even though, Gabe, they had a slow start of the blocks in the first 2 quarters of their game on Sunday, that's been tough on Minnesota. They've not had a strong start to games in the last few weeks here, minus the win against the Nuggets in games 1 and 2, back around number 2. But I just think for the T-Wolves, if they get a fast start, this helps with their confidence and kind of calms down this Maverick team here. But I told you this game back in March. That March 1, I thought Dallas was playing their best ball, and that would carry over for them, and they have. And the biggest thing, they found the right recipe to build around Doncic and not have him be the ball carrier. And Kyrie, as I said to you last week, Kyrie Irving, no headaches. It's been all ball for him, and he's been wonderful watching him play for the Mavericks in the last few weeks of the season.
A lot of people, including Stan Van Gundy, who knows more about basketball than I do, have been very vocal about the T-Wolves defense on Luka Doncic. Mm-hmm. Yet, like, he doesn't understand why they're not doubling him more. Yet, I kind of think I understand why they're not doubling him more. Kyrie Irving. Like, what are they going to do? You double. That's what's so hard about playing the damn Dallas Mavericks. But it is true, and I noticed at the time, you can't have Rudy Gobert guarding Luka Doncic on a game-winning 3 at the 3-point line. So their defense has been out of place. It was a mistake. What happened? Remember, they can't come up with an answer defensively, Mo. Remember earlier it was like Anthony Edwards demanded, "I'll take Kyrie Irving." All right, and then you were running around everywhere, and he ran your ass into the ground, bro. Right?
He's tired though. That man's tired though.
Yeah. So it's it. He needs help, and also he's not on that level yet. People want to always catapult these players. Always Michael Jordan, this and that. Slow down. But he's a great young player. But we see, right, there's different levels to this stuff. Luka's been in the league longer. Kyrie's been in the league forever and is playing the best basketball of his career right now. So I do think they'll finish him off tomorrow. I would expect the T-Wolves to play well in the first half, but I think the Mavericks will win a close one and finish him off, Mo.
I agree. And I think for the T-Wolves, their off season, they got to find out, is Cat their guy? Because Gabe, he was awful in game 3. That whole notion he takes 1,500 shots. No one, Draymond and Barkley called him out. No one's doing that. And they're absolutely right. No one's taking 1,500 shots during playoff runs here. You're trying to conserve your energy for what you're trying to hope to win a Larry OB. So I think for the T-Wolves, if they're going to build upon this momentum, they got to figure out some questions about Cat, if he's a legitimate number 2. If not, they got to find someone that can play off of Ant-Man, because quite frankly, it was Edwards, everyone else on that team that was just a supporting cast for what they've done so well in the playoffs.
It's a good point. And, Karl Anthony Towns is a good guy. So, it's, I think it's, people want to come at him for being soft and stuff like that. But it is true. Doesn't matter how many practice shots you're taking during the day and stuff. You can already shoot. It's about getting it done in pressure situations and stepping up.
Yeah.
But there's different levels to this, right? And we see it in the NHL as well, where teams are learning on the fly about the intensity levels. The Dallas Mavericks have Luka's been in the league, man. He's had postseason failures before. But it's going to set up potentially for a pretty cool NBA Finals. A lot of the times the NBA Finals sort of predictable and or kind of, not a fresh matchup, right? This is a real fresh matchup here, potentially with Boston versus Dallas. We'll have time to break it down next week, but what's your first gut right now, that Boston or Dallas will beat who?
I think Boston wins in 6 right now. Missoula kid, that's going to be fun to watch, the coaching matchups. I know you mentioned Kyrie in hour number 2 going back to Boston. That's going to be cool to watch out for. But I'm curious to see, how does Dallas defend the 3-point shot of the Boston Celtics? We've seen Boston shoot the lights out throughout the course of this tournament. And if they get going early and often, it'll be very tough to beat the Celtics in the best out of 7.
I think it's going 7. I'll tell you that. I think it'll be a real battle this series.
onset of NIL and the transfer portal, it is allowing players to develop further in college, and guys that would maybe be stuck on the bench at a power program and not have as much shine are having the ability to find themselves in the spotlight.
Lane Kiffin came out and said we need to get bigger and more physical in terms of the offense and defensive lines, and that's why he went out and recruited that talent.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
And now you have to qualify, and these majors, you got to go do it, man. Like, and it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness, and I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships. So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live. Prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
SportsRage late
sort
night.
of has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
A lot of stuff I want to get to. We'll get Mo's comments on Bill Walton's passing, but we have some NFL news as far as international play is concerned. So we know this year we're opening up the season on Thursday night, Baltimore and Kansas City on Thursday night. What was it, September 5th, I think, 6th, whatever, off the top of my head. The opening Thursday night, I think it's the 6th. No, it's the 5th, actually, 5th. But they're playing in Brazil on the Friday night after, the Packers and the Eagles. And there's a bunch of games, man, the England games, the Germany game, whatever. It's hard to keep up with all their effing games. They got games everywhere. But the plan is moving forward. Adam Schefter reported this last week, and I always thought they were going to, they had a sort of a plan or dream of a European division and stuff. But I think they've caught on. You know what? We could just make money sending these games over like the way that we're doing now, except they want to do more and more and more and more. And the thought is when they go to an 18-game schedule, which they're going to, that there'll be 18 international games, one game a week. So like every week there'd be at least one international game. That's sort of their long-term vision, and they are getting more aggressive with it. So as far as next year is concerned, they're going to have the England stuff, as always, in Germany, but they're adding more to the rotation. Dublin. That's going to be a fun time. And I'll tell you what, Mo, Dublin's been in college football. There's always a game. Every year, the last couple of years, they've been opening up in Dublin. Notre Dame played, Nebraska played. There's another game this year, I believe.
FSU, I believe, is coming down to Dublin, I think. Yeah.
Who is it?
FSU, I believe, is going to Dublin this year. Florida State.
They are. Is it the Georgia Tech game? I think you're right. I think it's Georgia Tech and Florida State are in Dublin, I think. Yeah.
There's not much Nash. Nothing says
they get weird matchups. Yeah, that's another one. Let's bring a team from the South and FS.
Yeah.
Like that's what I was going to say. Like, they got Nebraska and stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Before Northwestern and Nebraska, they get like weird teams, but whatever. They're bidding for them, and teams are like, yeah, we'll come. So, but NFL, and how about this too? Paris. So you got the Olympics in Paris coming up this year. Yeah. Paris, the City of Lights, NFL Paris. So that's what they're looking at for 2025. And this is kind of the big one, Mo, because we've seen the prevalence of the Live Tour. And now the Saudis are getting involved with women's tennis and, mixed martial arts they're very involved with. Boxing, they own boxing now. All the big prize fights. The NFL will be going to the Middle East. It might be in 2 years, but Abu Dhabi. That's the first place that is planned. United Emirates is planned first here, Mo. So they really are going for global expansion here, in addition to Australia.
Yeah, so there's a lot to that long play of the Middle East. Remember, the NFL doesn't have private equity firms as ownership, right? And now the NBA and the NFL is looking at that avenue saying, well, hold on here. If we bring in that resource of money, that's a lot of money coming the way from the Middle East or those who are in that type of line of work here. So that could be a long play of ownership structure and how that changes for both the NBA and NFL moving towards maybe the next 5-10 years. But, Gabe, look at it this way, right? They're going to Madrid, I believe.
How much do you think Jerry Jones could get from the Saudi kingdom for the Cowboys? Exactly. If they're willing to pay all that money to soccer players.
Yeah, you get $20 billion.
If the Cowboys are valued, I think they said $9 billion recently in that range, whatever.
Yeah.
Even more. I think he could get more, but it's a slippery slope. And the NFL has a non-foreign clause. They have all kinds of stuff, right, to sort of protect from foreign invasions of their league, so to speak. But owners are greedy. So, like you said, this is a way where they don't have to sell the league to them. They'll just start selling games to them.
Yeah, and the thing is, right, with Madrid getting involved in Paris, most likely than not, they've conquered South America. The big one will be Oceania in the Far East, right? Whether you look at China, Japan, or even India for that matter. Like,
they're talking about Tokyo. Well, Tokyo's on the radar, too, down the road. Yeah.
Absolutely. And remember, Tokyo used to host games, right? I mean, remember the Niners?
They played in Tokyo before. They had the Tokyo Dome, the America Bowl or something they called it. Yeah.
Right. Terrell Davis was the one that got his start, right? Making that big tackle on teams for the Broncos. So I just think in the long play, they know, and you're right, give the 18-game schedule. There's going to be 1 or 2 allocated towards international play because they don't need to put a division out there anymore. Because you put a game here and there, they're all going to flock towards the NFL. And I know people are going to say, well, the NFL is not popular in Europe. It's popular in pockets of Europe. It's not going to go head-to-head with the English Premiership or Serie A, whatever it is. But they will get their fans because look how many Americans live overseas. Those are the fans that they're going to get. And then you have the diehard Europeans that will go watch these NFL games. So no matter how you look at it.
It's the same way, Mo. It's the exact same way where, like, if there's an NFL game there, it sells out. People go in the same way that, and there's talk of, and they don't want to do it. It's funny, the hypocrisy, right? The English Premier League. The EPL is to the point right now where they're like, how do we get more money out of this? Well, you know how we get more money out of this? We go to America. We go play in America and we sell. We have Man City play Yankee Stadium and we let the Americans bid on this stuff. And they're already flipping out about it, but they're getting NFL regular season games. That, you can only milk so much money out of a continent, right, Mo? That's what these leagues are learning. Right?
You know what, though, Gabe? The English Premiership, for example, right? The supporters would never allow a Man City-Liverpool game be played stateside in season, right? So these July tournaments, they don't care about it because it's money. It's money in the pockets of these
They're
clubs.
going to have to allow it. And you know what? Who owns all these EPL teams now? Who owns them?
Private equity
NFL
firms, right?
owners own them. NFL owners own them.
But the thing is, Gabe, right? These supporters, and I'm telling you, because I've been a Liverpool fan, they flex muscles. And think about it this way. I'll put it this
they flex muscles, whatever. They could burn a couple of buses and protest all they want. Like, how's it worked out for them? Seriously, how's it worked out for them? Has any American owner sold a team because people complain? No.
But you know what?
The Cronkies didn't tap out. They don't crap out. The Liverpool Henry doesn't tap out. They don't top out.
But they will eventually. They will sell eventually to a private equity firm down the road because of what the value that they'll get, right? And look, you saw
but exactly, Bo. You just said it. They're not going to sell because of a bunch of Yahoo boosters don't like them.
No, but again, like I said,
they don't have the money in England, Mo. They need American money to come in, point blank.
Sure, but the thing is, though, is that the structure of European football, they would never allow a massive game to go be played stateside or anything outside of the.
I'm not telling you they're not going to play. They'll play regular season game, but I'm not saying they're going to play the Champions League in America.
I tell you what, that might be the play. I think that's more.
That would be something.
That would be more likely to happen than
what? Reflected the freaking Copa America, like, you know what I mean? Canada, and like they'd invite other teams. Like, we're in a new era right now, bro. You know, it's sort of like college football, Mo. Everything is for sale. Everything is for sale. The Dodgers opened up the season in Korea, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying?
but here, I'll give you one example here, Gabe. Remember 3 years ago, the power clubs tried to form their own Champions League format, and the fan base in the United States will bleep you guys. It's not going to happen. And they all relented. Okay, we apologize. We're not going to do this anymore. We realize this would have been terrible. I don't think,
though. I'll disagree with you. I don't think they did it because of the fans. They didn't do it because of the fans. They didn't do it because
of the money.
They didn't do it because it was too complicated. It's hard to like leave these leagues and like it would have been so many lawsuits and like,
100%,
but it's the exact same thing as the Pac-12 and the Big Ten. Like college football just did exactly what the soccer leagues talked about. For people that are wondering, sort of like the Champions League, like the top 4 teams from all the top leagues basically said to each other, why are we sharing money with Portsmouth? Like, we don't care about Bolton. Like, why are we sharing money with these teams? But like you said, fans say you need someone to play. That's what they told George Steinbrenner once, scolded everyone when he was alive, a bunch of owners. And they said, George, Yankees need to play against somebody. He was like, you all suck. You're all useless. He goes, you can't play against yourself, George. You need other teams in the league. But great stuff as always, Mo. Thanks a lot for taking the time to be with us tonight, my man.
You good, guys. Have a great week, man.
With the onset of NIL and the transfer portal, it is allowing players to develop further in college, and guys that would maybe be stuck on the bench at a power program and not have as much shine are having the ability to find themselves in the spotlight.
Lane Kiffin came out and said we need to get bigger and more physical in terms of the offensive defensive lines, and that's why he went out and recruited that talent.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
And now you have to qualify, and these majors, you got to go do it, man. Like, and it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness, and I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships. So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live. Prime time.
We got not one, but 2 coaches fired systems in place.
SportsRage late
sort
night.
of has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is SportsRage. I am Morency. Always great stuff with Mo Khan. Fascinating talk about the EPL. Just quickly about that. It's the same thing. I know people, and we all think, oh, like, what do people know about, like, NFL in England? Why are they getting this game and stuff? Well, they bet on sports in England more than people are betting on sports in America. Sports betting has been legal in the UK forever, right? Some of the biggest sports books in the world are operated out of the UK. So there's sophisticated sports betting markets, sophisticated crowd. It's a global market. There's no difference. Like, whatever. You're playing in London, you're playing in New York, you're playing in LA. Like, what do you think? People are like, you know what I mean? People know what odds are in England. Like I said, there's sports books on every damn corner. The people grew up with the stuff there. Like, it's more ingrained in Britons and in people in England than it is in America. So from a betting perspective, and no doubt, these fans are nuts in England and in France, in Europe with their soccer teams. There's no doubt about it. But so are the Philadelphia Eagle fans, right? So are the Green Bay Packer fans. They're playing their first game of the year in Brazil. Okay? So deal with it. It is what it is. And honestly, in today's economy too, in today's world, you're cutting yourself off. You need to be global. It's the one thing as well that the National Hockey League, not one thing, because the NHL has screwed up a lot of things over the years as far as marketing is concerned, but the NHL has an advantage over a lot of these leagues. Hockey is popular and already built there for them. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to a new market. You're not building new, fans. You're not oh, we're going to this new country and they like it, but it'll get bigger as we grow. No, hockey is already big in Sweden. Not getting any bigger. Hockey's already big in Sweden. Anybody that's watched the World Championships in the Czech Republic, it's pretty big. You had 500,000 people on the street after they won. It's big. You know what I'm saying? Russia, you know what I mean? Well, Russia's played itself out of the sports community now. But you know what I'm saying? If you're the NHL, you should already be on top of this. And I know that they have started and they have games and they played and stuff, but they should be on top of it more, right? They should be playing in Sweden more. They should be playing in Finland more and cashing in. Because there's only so much money you can get out of the same markets over and over. You can only make so many City Connect jerseys that suck and you want people to buy. So you get new people to buy them. That's the thing. That's one great thing that the UFC has going for them. I remember, I've been around a long time, as far as MMA is concerned, and people are oh, it's already as big as it was. They're not going to be able to replace the fighters. They don't have a Chuck Liddell. You had the early stars, and even after, Brock Lesnar, and look at Conor McGregor. Yeah, they made money off of Conor McGregor, but Conor McGregor never fights, and the UFC makes more money now than they ever have. Right? You might not be able to name, the UFC has 3,000 fighters under contract now, whatever, and, the casual fan doesn't know how that 90% of them are, but, the UFC, it'll just continue, they can tap out one market. They had 55,000 people in Canada once, the UFC, okay? Because George St. Pierre was a big star. And Canada is really into the UFC and MMA. So those are it's still their biggest card ever. They had 55,000 people in Toronto. Jake Shields and GSP. There was a bunch of other good fights, Hominick and Aldo. And so it was a good card. But I was there. But so you have these peaks and stuff. Yet there's always new markets and countries, right? The UFC's never really busted into China for real yet. They're on there. They've got Chinese champions now, which before they didn't. This is what they wanted to do. But it's not easy, right? You can't just it's not like booking T-Mobile in Vegas or something. You know what I'm saying? You go to China, you got to deal with the government, and it's a big deal. So the UFC's building up to all this type stuff, but the Middle East, same with boxing. People are going, boxing's dead. Boxing's not dead. It's not as big in America, but there's a world out there like the Saudis and United Emirates and stuff. These people are paying massive money for this stuff, right? It's a new market now, but the NFL is going to continue in this vein, and their plan is to have an international game a week, including, as we stated, Dublin and Paris next year. I like to go to one of these international games. I thought about going before as a Bills fan. The Bills play in England quite often, actually. It seems like every couple of years the Bills are going to England. The Jags, of course, are sort of the London team. This is one thing about the schedule this year that's an unfair advantage for the Jacksonville Jags. They're playing 2 weeks in a row in London. And it's a challenge for the teams to go there. It's especially a big advantage for the Jaguars in that second game. Because in the first game, the Jaguars and their opponent are both going to London at the same time. But then the Jags are staying there, and then a second team has to go there. And it is an extended, sort of tougher trip to deal with. So it's kind of an unfair advantage for the Jacksonville Jaguars. But nevertheless, I want to get to Bill Walton, and may Bill Walton rest in peace. Just a consummate legend, man. What can you say about Bill Walton? One of those people that, just a joy. Whenever he was on, you wanted to hear what he had to say. He could turn, a Washington mid-February game into magic. I find it fitting, if not tragic, similar to couples that love each other that have been together forever. When the wife dies, they've been married for 58 years and stuff, and the wife dies and the husband dies the next day. I find it almost tragically romantic in that sense that the last Pac-12 event took place and Bill Walton passes away right after. Because without the Pac-12, there's no Bill Walton. Without Bill Walton, there's no Pac-12. No one was more synonymous with that conference, the Conference of Champions, than Bill Walton. Bill Walton, more than a basketball player, too. Very big activist. Never shy to speak his mind about issues. And I think that's why him and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar were so close. And a very touching tribute from Kareem Abdul-Jabbar today. People always talk about the best combos in basketball. Ooh, Jokic and Murray. Yeah, give me Bill Walton and Kareem.
With the onset of NIL and the transfer portal, it is allowing players to develop further in college, and guys that would maybe be stuck on the bench at a power program and not have as much shine are having the ability to find themselves in the spotlight.
Lane Kiffin came out and said we need to get bigger and more physical in terms of the offense and defensive lines, and that's why he went out and recruited that talent.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
And now you have to qualify, and these majors, you got to go do it, man. And it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness, and I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships.
Mm-hmm.
So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell, coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live. Prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
SportsRage late
sort of
night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is SportsRage. Gabriel Morency. Let's do this thing. We're into level 3 right now. Happy Memorial Day. Shout out to all of our troops and veterans that are tuning in here this evening. Hope you had a great weekend. So we threw it down tonight. Shout out to all of our guests for joining us as well. We're just talking about Bill Walton, and one of the best basketball players ever to play the game, but also one of the best broadcasters ever as well. Like really, a lot of people really knew him as a broadcaster. In his older years, he sort of became known as the eccentric guy. And shout out to Dave Patch as well, who it's not easy to work with someone that was like wild, like Bill, right? You never know what he's going to say. He's going to put you in awkward situations. And I'm sure a lot of times that he freaked ESPN out. Everybody has their favorite Bill Walton stories. But I remember once, this is just from a couple of years ago, when marijuana was becoming recreationally legalized in a lot of states. And they were in Washington. It was like a Washington Husky game. And Dave said to him, he said, "So, Bill, how did you enjoy the streets of Seattle today?" And in typical like Bill fashion, "Absolutely marvelous. I had a marvelous time. Such a beautiful city." And he goes, "I had an opportunity." And he basically started talking about he had an opportunity to smoke the best weed ever. He goes, "You know, I had the opportunity to partake in some of the best local products today." He started going off. And Dave's like, "Oh, really?" And he knew, like, he kind of like knew where it was going. And he goes, "Oh, you partook?" And Bill said, "Only where it's legal, ha, 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 ha." And he started laughing. He goes, always a fan when we're in legal states. He started laughing. Of course, I remember a couple of years ago, too, in a game, he just got up in the middle of the game and he went to the bathroom, if you guys remember that one. He came back and he waved to everyone as he came back. He said, like, he was just so authentic. Great stuff. Great stuff. I truly miss. Like, you know, people say, "Oh, one of a kind" and stuff, but like truly, truly, truly one of a kind. But very sort of like a lot like Kareem. You know, we're in a polarizing era right now when anybody has like a social view on anything, but he was very socially active as well. Arrested for protesting the Vietnam War. Actually, I believe at the UCLA campus too. Right? So it's amazing how things come full circle, huh? Like protest on campus and stuff like that. I see people flipping out about that. "I can't believe there's students protesting on campuses." And it's like, this has been going on for 100 years, people. So, "Oh, you can't believe it. Oh, it's because this has never happened before." Oh, no, that's never happened before. So may Bill Walton rest in peace. And Grayson Murray as well. We'll get into the Grayson Murray stuff with Cam and Brady later in the week. But may Grayson Murray rest in peace as well. Sad, tragic news as far as Grayson Murray over the weekend. And other news as well, Mike Tyson. So Mike Tyson has this fight, and, you know, we use the term loosely, but the match against Jake Paul, except Mike Tyson suffered a medical emergency during a flight over the weekend. And Mike Tyson is recovering from an ulcer flare-up he suffered while flying cross-country, and it was so bad airline staff had to put out the call for any medical professionals on the plane. He was flying from Miami to L.A. on Saturday, and he started feeling sick on the plane. They were almost at LAX, but he was in so much pain, flight attendants asked if there was a doctor on board. He became nauseous and dizzy due to an ulcer flare-up. 30 minutes before landing, he's appreciated the medical staff that were there to help him. Tyson's rep says he's doing great right now. Now, listen, he might look good in some of these warm-up videos and stuff like this. And, you know, I never really thought much of Jake Paul as a fighter. Obviously, you know, he's not a real boxer. He's kind of a showman. But he is 27, 28 years old or whatever the hell he is. And Mike Tyson is going on 58 years old right now. And if Mike Tyson is having a hard time, like, flying from Miami to LAX without a medical emergency, should this guy really be getting into a freaking boxing ring this summer? This fight really shouldn't be happening. Like, I don't even think Tyson needs the money that much. I think he just wants to do it for the sake of doing it. But should he be doing this? And, like, Jake Paul, like, really, bro? Like, seriously, you want to fight George Foreman next after this? Other than that, you're on your own later.